All right, hello, Ceramics 2. This is the first assignment, and it is a lidded container, which we're going to start off with pinch pots. 2 pinch pots put together to make the base, and then we're going to cut the lid. So let me show you a finished product. You've got this here, which is 2 pinch pots on the side. Right, if you take 2 pinch pots, put them together, put them on their side. This is what that looks like, right, with the lid. You can also orient the pinch pots a different way and make a container like this. All right. So, to start, we're going to make a pinch pot. And everybody should remember that from Ceramics 1. I do want to go over it real quick with you, but I'm going to cut this one in half to show you what a good pinch pot is. All right, so I'm just going to turn it upside down, run the wire right through it, and then there's a few things to point out for a good pinch pot. Number 1 is that the walls and the bottom are all even thickness, all right? There's no inconsistencies, no bumps. It doesn't get thinner as it goes up. So a good practice to get into is to make a few pinch pots, cut them in half, all right? You're gonna need 2, so you should probably make a few before you decide on actually starting. The other thing about a good pinch pot, at least for this project, is that you need a level top. If it's not level, it's going to be difficult to put the 2 together. All right? And also, too, the walls shouldn't be thicker than this. And this is about somewhere between 1/4 and maybe a 1/2 inch. All right, so let's start with a review of how to make a pinch pot. Real simple. First you got to prepare the clay. So remember, clay could have air bubbles in it, and a small amount of clay like this, the easiest way to get the air bubbles out is to patty cake it flat, rip the 2 halves together and laminate 1 half right onto the other, and then do that again. Right? And if you do this over and over 10, 15, 20 times, you'll get the air bubbles out. All right, so I've already done this, so I don't need to do it anymore. But to make the pinch pot, you start with a ball of clay. And you need to make sure that there are no creases. These will actually open up later when you start to expand the pinch pot. So in review, real simple, you basically just take your thumb, put your thumb right in the center of the ball of clay, use these 4 fingers together as a mitt, and pinch and turn. Pinch and turn. Pinch and turn. The key here is soft, even pinching. I'm not trying to pinch to the thickness of the walls immediately. It's gradual, it's slow, it's methodical. Also even. I'm not pinching really hard on one side and then, really soft right next to it. So turning is key also to get everything nice and even. And at some point, I'm working this up in the air, but I can put it down on the table and I can get 2 hands in it and I can pinch and turn this way. Now, you can see I'm still going slow. I'm still trying to do even pinching here. And again, if I go up in the air, this is what that looks like. Now, these things are called pinch pots, but you don't have to pinch the whole thing. You can take, 2 fingers and kind of scrape if you want to. That works as well. What I'm going to ask you to do is try and control the pinch pot. So, taller rather than wider would be good. It's very, very easy to get a low, wide pinch pot. And if that's what you want, that's okay for this project. But, if you want a standing form like this, you're going to have a pinch pot that is taller than it is wide. All right, so another way to get the walls tall is as I'm pinching, I'm moving my hand in towards the center of the pot, right? And you can see that brings the walls in rather than let them spread out. Just like throwing on the wheel, it's really easy for, a pot to get really, really wide. It's difficult to sort of compress the clay and have it narrow and tall. All right. So anyway, this, could take a few minutes. You also want to get the walls nice and even. So, from time to time, you just want to maybe not pinch, but go around and just feel and see the walls, how thick they are, and, even them out where they need to be. And anyway, so after you've made your pinch pot, they need to set up a little bit to the leather hard stage, right? These have been under plastic for a day or two, and they're ready to go. So what I want to do is I want to attach the two, lip to lip. And so in order to do that, as a reminder from before, actually, let me jump back a second, and I want to bring this pinch pot in and show you the texture on it from a stamp. And if you have something at home that will make an image, that's great. I would fully encourage you. But I want to show you, it's much easier. This is the pinch pot I just demonstrated. It's much easier on a soft clay to take an impression, okay, than it is on leather hard clay. It takes a little more effort, but it's going to be crisper and cleaner on the soft clay. So if you do want to use texture, I would suggest doing it before it gets leather hard. So in any case, the clay is now leather hard, and I want to attach the two, so I have to slip and score. Score and slip. So scoring is roughing up the surface. I'm using a needle tool to do this. I hadn't needed any tools prior, other than the wire, maybe to cut the pinch pots in half and see how I was doing. So I'm going to score both. And then once they are scored, I'm going to add the slip. All right, and so to add the slip, slip is basically just, as you guys remember, clay with water. So you can put a little bit of clay in a cup, add water to cover it and let it sit overnight, and it'll turn into this. Or you can mix it up. It takes a few minutes, but you need a tool to sort of press it and mix it. So I'm using this wooden knife to put it on, but if I was making my slip, I could use the same knife. So anyway, the slip is on. You don't need to put them on both surfaces that are being connected. Just one is fine. And you need to press and wiggle it a little to get it on there. Now, to further make that connection strong, I would go ahead and score across the connection, make X's all the way around. And then I'm going to go back and I'm going to add a coil of clay and do this. Put a coil of clay on there and smooth it in to further seal that. If you do this when the clay is soft and not leather hard, when you put that coil of clay on and try and smooth it in, you're going to mess up your shape. You're going to collapse it. You're going to push it out of round. So it's better to do this when it is leather hard. And also for cutting the lid too, you'll see. You may be able to put the two halves together when they're soft, but cutting the lid when it's soft is not a good idea because the lid will not maintain its shape. All right, so I get the coil on here. I need some more. All right, and smooth it in. And once I've got my egg shape here, or potato, or whatever you want to call this shape here, then, I can decide whether or not I want it to be upright or lying down for cutting the lid, for making the, the lidded pot. So for this one, I'm going to start off with sideways, let's say lying down. And so to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the form and I'm going to slightly tap it, just to get a flat bottom. And so I think that's fine. And now I'm going to go ahead and cut the lid. So what I don't want to do is I don't want to make a lid straight across. And the reason being because if the lid comes off for this shape, it could go on this way, or you could flip the lid around and go on the other way, but it won't fit both ways because this is not perfect. And you don't want somebody trying to, put the lid on and get it wrong and then flip it around and do the other way. You want the lid going on one way and that's it. You don't want any confusion on how the lid fits. So what I do is I wave it a little bit. I make the lid, wavy. And so the best thing to cut this with is a sharp knife, an X-Acto knife. Now, not everybody has that at home. So this needle tool came with your kit. This will work, but it doesn't slice the clay as cleanly as a knife does. So what you're going to have to do, and it's actually kind of good because it forces you to sort of go slow and think about the shape. But what this does, what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to draw lightly the lid. All right, and you can see I'm turning it as I'm doing this, and I'm making these waves in it so that the lid can only fit one way. And then once it's on there, once it's drawn, now I'm going to go back over it 2 or 3 times. I'm not cutting all the way through the first time. I'm slowly pushing the clay through, gouging this cut, and I can clean this up a little bit later. But once I've made several passes, then the lid is going to come off. Now, if you do have a knife, a sharp knife, you can do this in one shot. But, like I said, not everybody has a knife in their toolkit, or a sharp one. So this method is what you're going to have to rely on. And I think one more pass should do it. Yep, I can tell that I'm all the way through with the tool. All right, now there's a lot of cleanup to do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the lid off gently. Now, a few things too about this is if you look on the inside, that is, what's left over from the outside that I couldn't score and slip and add the coil to fix. So I'm going to do that right now, both on the body and on the lid. I don't need to add any slip because I've got some sort of already squishing out from before. And what I'm going to need to do now is I'm going to need to fix up this edge. All right, it's all sort of crumbly and whatever. So I want to fix it without moving it. I don't want, it's in the perfect, shape right now to match the lid. So all I'm going to do is maybe I'm going to wet my fingers a little bit. Water would be preferable, but slip works. And I'm going to just smooth it out. And I actually want to use very little water, because when I put my lid back on to check the fit, water will actually cause that lid to stick. So I'm going to put some paper towels there, and I'll show you that too, to sort of keep it from sticking. But I want to clean this up as best I can. Now, if you do use a sharp knife, there's less cleanup to do. But again, it's not in everybody's toolkit. All right, so this is cleaned up fairly well, and I can clean it up even further when it is bone dry, and I'll show you guys that. But when I put my lid on to check, I don't want it to stick, so I'm going to take a paper towel and I'm going to rip strips, and I'm going to put the strips flush against the clay, so that when I put my lid on, it doesn't stick. Now, this paper towel is going to come off later. You're going to have to take it off before you drop your pieces off to be fired. All right, and the thinner the paper towel, the better, because really thick paper towel is not going to give you a good fit, and you don't want too many layers either. All right, so that's all prepared. I only have to do it on one. I'm not going to do the lid here with the slip and score, just because it's a demo and I want to hurry up on this. But if this were a project I was going to save, I would definitely slip and score that. So I'm going to clean the lid up a little bit as well. Slip and score, that is what I'm talking about there. I don't know if you can see it on camera. I haven't checked. All right, and I'm not getting this, super perfect right now, but I'm getting it close. And so now I'm going to put the lid on, and I'm going to check the fit. So my bottom here moved out a little bit, so I'm going to push it back in. I'm going to match the bottom up with the lid as best I can, all the way around, all four sides. And so this is the shape that I'm going to let set up. All right. Now, I can leave it just like this, and that sort of satisfies the most basic requirements of the assignment. But if you want a chance at a better grade, I would also consider putting on a knob. Now for this, it was just sort of a little pinch of clay that I put on there. But certainly if you want to, you can roll out a coil and then make a handle. And you can make a simple one, right, just like this, and slip and score and put it on like that. Or if you want to, you can make a little more of an intricate one where, let's see if I can do this on camera. The middle's a little thicker, the ends are a little, tapered. You can sort of roll the ends up. All right, and now, see, that would go on like that. That's kind of large for the form, so maybe I'll roll that up a little bit more. That's a little nicer. All right. And so remember, anytime clay gets attached to another piece of clay, you 100% have to slip and score. I can't tell you how many pieces have popped off because this step was not done, or it was kind of done not correctly. So I'm demonstrating the correct way. You score, you add slip, you put it, and don't just leave it like that either. I mean, you really got to kind of wiggle it on there to really make sure that it's secure. All right. And so now another thing to do once this firms up a little bit maybe is to put something on the bottom, some feet maybe that match the handle. You decide whatever you want. But that's it. All right. And then so if you want your pot oriented this way, the exact same thing goes. You would take your needle tool. Now here you decide, how far up or how far down you want the lid to go. Let's put it right about here. And so I'm just going to, again, do the wave. Just sort of lightly drawing it. And then later, I'm going to start going a little bit deeper. All right, and then now I should be all the way through with the tool. There we are. And boom. All right, so this is going to need some cleaning up. I'm going to have to slip and score the inside where I didn't before, one form to another. And then put the paper on. Another thing too, and especially with these, when they're tall like this, is again, somebody could spend some time trying to figure out how this fits, but you want to make this pretty easy. So what I do is I take a tool and I make a mark that will eventually line up so that, when the lid comes off, somebody can see this mark and line it up and know that that's what fits. Now, if I just leave this like this and let it dry, this lid is going to stick. All right, I can tell you that for sure. So what you definitely want to do is, even if you're going to, walk away and come back to this and sort of work on it later, before you do, please put the paper on the lid so that, you don't have to struggle to get the lid off when you are coming back to this. Now, I mean, I could wrap this up in plastic with the paper here and the lid on, and don't spray it because you don't want any more moisture in here. But if I wrap this up in plastic and come back in a day or two, I can still be working on this. It'll still be leather hard. And, I can do whatever I want to do to this, however I want to decorate it, by adding stuff or by taking stuff away. I mean, if you want to, you can carve, a pattern. I mean, with the needle tool, you don't really have many options, but certainly if you have a loop tool or if you have a stamp, you can decorate this. All right, so that is a lidded container from 2 Pinch Pots.